All right, we're back. This is the final game of what would it have been week 3 of Paris's Rabble Round Robin Tournament 2022 edition. It is Tamerlin, Dark, King of the Hill. Let's jump into it. All right. Oh God, look at this captain. So we have Team Walter Wight with Walter Wight, the legend himself, Kryptos, Jahral Toad,
You're
HMP,
goddamn
Paris,
right.
and Team Overdose with Lord Scary Owl, Father Xmas, Killer King Wings, and Vinarian. So, right off the bat, what are your impressions of this matchup and this game type?
Well, no, it's an interesting map choice. Yeah, it was the dark version, which I think was created after the fact of many MWCs. So immediately catches me offhand at the end, and this was well into when we were playing. So I was pretty interested. I do get the benefit of HMP, so pretty excited about HMP on my team. Pretty excited about Paris on my team. I think we got this. I think all I need to do, I just need to get max Trow, pretty much max RT, and just rock you guys mid. But it's King of the Hill, so I don't know if it'll work. I think it will.
Okay, yeah, one of the major differences is that I decided to choose a few, a little bit, I think, what, 3 or 4 fewer Solus in exchange for, max Mauls. I barely got any Zerks. You, on the other hand, got more Zerks, and I don't think you got any Mauls. So, I'm
So
just
no like grudge units that can kind of hold the flag is an interesting idea that I had.
Game on.
okay. I mean, maybe you were prioritizing speed, which in a map that where there's one focus point and there's deep water on both sides, King of the Hill.
Well, no, well, see, here it is. I have Paris and HMP on my team. They can outmatch any one of the players, so I'm pretty sure we can overmatch.
Okay,
So let's just see how it plays.
I think
I'm
we should.
pretty sure I got this though.
All right. Well, a very confident Walter White. You heard it here first. Yeah. So just sort of the setups really quick. Let me just.
Flag captured.
All right. Slow it down here. So I gave Lord Scary Owl the trow. No surprise there. I actually learned that. Thank you, Lord Scary Owl, and thank you, Killer King, for giving me the unit trading suggestions. They suggested max warlock, or 4 warlocks, 4 mortars, mauls, and a handful of solus. But if you check my first-person video,
The
for
Zerks were not.
what?
Just to be clear, because yeah, I feel like shitty about getting so many Zerks. Anyways, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm a football fan. Mauls to me are the offensive linemen of Myth. They're used to basically take a bunch of punishment and try and move armies out of position. That
I
was my
think balls are perfect for this particular map for sure. And I didn't do it, and so I'm frustrated by that. Anyways,
yeah. Well, I mean, um, maybe next time. I don't know. I mean, you have
maybe next time.
one thing I found interesting was that you had 2 soul pack. Even though so, one of the key things I think in this matchup is that we had an extra player. It was 6 on 5, and so I had the ability. Somewhere on the map would have likely been a 2 versus 1 scenario, just because you were down somebody. So
Did
I
you
think
think about that early on,
yeah.
like
I mean, I looked
when
at
you
the
were trading?
yeah, absolutely. I usually count the players, but that's just out of habit because when you're playing World War II S2, if there's if there's 8 players, you know how many units to give each person. If you have 7, then it's just a division problem. So that's why I always look at how many are on each team. But yeah, I mean, splitting the soulless, when you're down a person, might not have been the best thing. I don't know. I mean, but
Well, the goal. So Ja is already down a person. Sort of. So Ja had killed it uh, with with his souls on a map 2 maps ago. It wasn't Care. I think it was Barbarian Valley, and absolutely, basically helped us. And
okay,
so giving Ja some souls was great. HMP and Pair had to kind of split their forces. I was, and this is where my poor captaining really came into line. I should have just said, like, I really do want you all to go mid, but I didn't necessarily specify it. But that was my fault.
okay, and I think another sort of tough spot. Obviously, I like Kryptos immensely. He's an absolute fun player to play with, but giving him both artillery and soulless, I mean, it's kind of a tough task, especially when you're dealing with sort of this choke point style map. I don't know if it would have been possible for him to, sort of man both those groups of units at the same time. But yeah, I mean, I don't
Well,
know.
Crip had given me shit the last time I had capped that, like, I guess I'm just a 10% player or something the
Ah,
last
so you
time.
so you were sort of that. I mean, that borderlines on passive aggressive. I mean, maybe you are the passive aggressive player in the myth community.
I just meant to give him what he got. He
I'm,
got more than 10%, and that everyone got units that they can do.
okay.
Am I a dick about it? If you're going to call me a passive aggressive player, real
No,
quick,
no, there's nothing wrong with being passive aggressive.
I'm not. Well, I'm not a dick.
I
I'm
didn't say
just.
you were.
I just need players to play their role.
You heard it here first. Players need to play their role. All right. So, should we move ahead?
Sure.
All right. Let's see. What do
Flag
we got here?
contested.
Probably the end of this bullshit.
Hey, I sat through some of these terrible games that I played, so it's only payment in kind.
I think that in general, ratio wise, I ended up the top player of the week, but or like maybe top two. Anyways, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah. So I am manning the Solus pack here. Kryptos, he decides to engage me 6 versus 8. He wants to out World War II me, which he should know by now is not going to happen if I have a couple extra guys.
So, what do you mean by World War II? Because I've heard you mention that in chat a few times, even in the myth community. What does to World War II someone in Rag mean?
Basically, just use units that shoot stuff at each other, and then dodging.
Out artillery,
Oh, yeah. Kryptos just
like
blew
out
up.
archer.
Archer, I mean, it definitely qualifies, even though, you know, when I typically say World War II somebody, I usually just mean like one archer or, one soulless or,
Ah, okay.
but in this case, it's 6 versus 8. We're both using our World War. Oh, I almost killed Killer King there. But yeah. Anyway, World War II is just World War IIing people. It's that simple. But what I would point out is that we've got Killer King holding down the north, and I think that this was sort of the key in the game is that Paris, even though he has, I think he had 4 artillery units, he just can't get any push because of the mauls absorbing a lot of that firepower, and Killer King sort of inching his way
Yeah.
up, which gave him the elevation advantage and protected me and
He
allowed
was
me to.
fighting hard that whole game
Yeah,
to
I mean,
even get to mid, and then like we weren't really even contesting, and so I was a little bit pissed at HMP for not trying, but at the same time, HMP didn't want to like. It just felt like HMP wasn't doing.
Flag contested.
At this point in the game was when I really started to like, as a captain, be like, "Holy shit! Well, why haven't we like we have all of the right tools and like Paris
Flag
has been
contested.
winning, but it's also been like, why aren't we
Contested.
fucking playing the game type?"
5
And
minutes
like when I'm
remaining.
cap, I guess I expect my players, especially my like top 3 players, to play the game type, so that like I can kind of watch other things. But
okay, yeah, I mean,
Flag
I can
if I
understand
had
that.
been watching the would have been
Flag lost.
Yeah, I think
pretty
you're
sure that HMP fucked us this whole map, which sucks
okay.
because I've been such a HMP lover, but
Flag captured.
I can't see a single true move that he made that I would have liked. It seemed like he was sitting on it. He wasn't watching the map. He wasn't paying attention. He was like he had to have been watching football or some bullshit. But it was
It was Saturday and the season was over. There was no football. But I would also like to give
well,
a
no,
shout
or
out.
maybe like empty football. I think he was watching soccer.
Well,
Flag
this is an
lost.
American podcast or an American YouTube stream. It's football or soccer. That game that they call football is soccer. Anyways, I would also like to give a shout out to Vinarian, who while you were explaining to us how disappointed you were, his Dwarven mortar work in the center was absolutely brilliant. I think he killed at least 3 artillery units, and again, he's just showing what a presence he is. And so, you're a
Well, I
fan of him. I'm a
officially
fan of him.
draft Vinarian for the future MWC.
Okay, well you heard it here first. Ah man, I just died. But yeah, I mean, while we were talking, your team made
Unfortunately, overdose your cut.
what? Oh, I'm cut. Yeah, that's fine. I will not play Myth World Cup, and I will not lose sleep over it. But it seems like you made a oh, now we're making a push with our mauls. Yeah, and this is where you get to see the strength of these pigs.
But the game, if you look at the top left corner, the actual F7, it's over. Like the timer counting down.
Well, I mean, it's 4 minutes to 3 minutes with 2 minutes left. You guys still could have won, but I think LSO.
Not with the strength.
But yeah, I
And
mean,
not based on like what we had wise. So that was the hard thing. It was just those moles, like you said, they're the offensive line, and that was a really amazing push. An overdose, you fucking called it, and it was there, and shit, dude.
no, that was all.
Work.
That was all Lord Scary Owl. He basically took command of my team, and basically threw me to the wayside. I resent that fact. I was the captain. I should have just ordered him around. I'm getting, punked by some kid. It's embarrassing as hell. You hate to see it, but it was the correct decision. So you got to give him that. You got to give Killer King credit for holding the North against Paris. I think that was the key of the game actually, because the middle was more or less a stalemate until
But it's a
Vinarian.
whole series of the games. I think like it's just so wonderful to see like how good some of these players are,
Oh, that was a
and if
nice.
anyone like watches these, just to see like
1 minute remaining.
how we try as little players to do our best. But yeah, LSO and Paris and HMP and even Vinarian, I'm gonna give him like a little
Team
shout out.
eliminated.
Really killed it this week. Like those are my four MVPs. Do you have any MVPs you'd really like to shout out?
Um, yeah, well, I mean, like what you said, HMP, he had a great day. I think what there were 7 games, he probably won 5 of them, and I think that probably means that he won the most out of everybody.
So it was also I had done some of the little nerdy math, and he also had gotten most kill damage ratio is how Paris's tournament is meant to work, and like he gained like 8 points this week. It was incredible. Like he won and he killed the most.
Well, just a dominant performance from the myth, the legend, HMP. I also would say that Paris, he's always in the mix. I think he's a fantastic player. He's a good dude. He's the guy that got me back in touch with Myth. That I'd taken a 20-something year break, and I stumbled upon his YouTube videos, and here I am today. So eternally grateful to that guy. Always willing to answer any Myth questions you may have regarding the community or strategy or streaming. The guy is just super helpful, and he's supremely talented as well. So any kind of MVP discussion, I think
And he's the
he's always
third
going to be in the
best.
mix. Always going to be in the mix.
It's
Lord's,
HMP, LSO, and HMP. Or HMP, LSO, and Paris. Sorry.
yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, you're really just picking the 3 best players. So, yeah. I mean, there's no real
Well,
surprise.
and then GKG.
Oh, you're not talking about the MVP of the tournament, or?
I'm just talking overall.
Oh, okay. Well, I was talking about this series of
Oh,
7
this tournament.
games.
Okay.
I would have given the MVP to either to Paris or HMP. Lord Scary Owl also had a very solid performance. Leading his team to victory. With his thrall walls, with his drawing on the map. Great decision making, great leadership ability. But when he does step onto the World War II field, he does tend to blow up a lot. So that's all I'll say about him. Father Xmas, I think, also had
Real quick before you go on, I would say that actually LSO beat Paris in this series of events.
well, I will say that when Lord Scary Owl was captain and Paris was captain, I think Lord Scary Owl won every single time. But
LSO is like the best captain I've ever seen, and I hold that the standard. So like I will say that the best player, if my statements mean anything, is HMP. The best captain is LSO of all time.
oh, of all time, okay. I mean, that again, that's a bold statement, man. But as I was saying, I also think that Father Xmas kind of flew under the radar. He won quite a few games, and he also put up some good damage numbers. He was always sort of in the right place at the right time, perhaps with the exception of that capture the flag game where he basically walked off the flag, and I think had LSO been half a step quicker, he could have just ended that game in about a minute and a half. But yeah, I mean, Father Xmas had a good showing. Killer King, again in this game he held the North. He deflected Paris, which is always a very tall order, but he did it extremely well with some great artillery work, with some great mauls. And so, he had a good showing in this game. I don't really remember how well he did overall, but he's a super nice guy, great player, always happy to play with him. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's just overall a really fun time with a good group of people. Um, Wings, give a shout out. Most damage in the game, 9 kills. I don't even know what units he had, and I was the captain, so I probably gave him some artillery or something. But great showing from him, and yeah, anybody can play well on any given day, and that's what makes Myth so great.
When it's a big matter of which player offered the teams the most wins, which is interesting. Which team won with the most singular players?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But yeah, so I mean, I do you have anything else you want to talk about, either in relation to this particular game or the entire group of 7 games that we just covered for what would have been week 3 of the Rapple round robin?
No, I think that I'm excited to see. I think that assuming that you and Shad and Kryptos and two other player or Wings play all 7 games on Saturday. That'll be a really fun ability to truly vet all of the stats. But I think that ultimately the stats don't matter. We've pretty much shown. I think that the top 2 players are HMP and LSO, and that's all we really need to say.
Okay, so you're predicting that it's one of those guys who are going to end up on top when the Rabble round robin. I guess this is the preliminary round or something, and we're supposed to form teams of 2 or teams of 6 or something. I don't know how it works, but you're basically saying HMP or LSO. You're betting on those horses.
Yes.
All right. Well, I mean, I can't form any arguments against that. I think those are very two solid choices. Um, but yeah, thanks for joining me, Walter. Hopefully, we'll
Thanks for
get some
having
of
me.
these videos next week for week 4 of the Rabble Round Robin, and hopefully we'll do this again next week. Wait,
Well, I love you, dude, and I hope for the most for World War II as well.
yeah, absolutely. I love World War II. Alrighty.